West Virginia blowing out Texas Tech in a game that really was not that competitive, a 78-62 finish. West Virginia, a team the metrics have loved this season, despite racking up some losses. They've got a bubble-ish record. The quality metrics absolutely love Bob Huggins Mountaineers. So, John, let's go to you first. Are you buying West Virginia? Do you think this team can make a run in the tournament?
I don't know about making a run, but this is a team that you probably don't want to see. They've played some tough games, some tough opponents, especially when they had that gauntlet of like 5 straight like top 15 teams, which they just kind of got them off on a bad foot. But they're a solid team. Huggins has a Huggins team, and they play hard, they play fast. They play a brand of basketball that you just don't like playing against, and as you can see, they've kind of worn cats down, down the stretch in the Big 12, and even now tonight they just kind of wore Texas Tech down. Like Texas Tech was like, all right, well, this is just I'm tired. This is too physical. So, don't know about a run, but I'd hate to see them in the first or second round, and they're fully capable of winning, going to the Sweet 16.
Yeah, John, I agree with you totally. Like, I don't know if you want to see them the first weekend. Just style of play. Like, you're not going to be able to run your stuff. They're in you. It's physical, and they can blow you out. When you're talking about like Pitt, West Virginia, like they blew Pitt out. Like they can run you. Just if you can't handle it. So they're not a team you want to run into. I don't know how deep they can make a run. If they can make a run, I just wouldn't want to play them right off the bat.
Yeah, they've certainly turned their season around. They started conference play 5 consecutive losses, which, in a lot of conferences, anytime you do that, we would write you off for the whole season. In the Big 12, that's just a footnote, because sometimes you're playing Kansas and then Baylor and then Kansas State back to back to back. It was good to see this team start to climb out of it record-wise, just because I do think, had they lost 1 to 2 more games this year, it gets hard to talk about putting them in the tournament. I mean, they're just a 15-loss team at the end of the regular season. It's almost impossible to convince people they deserve it, even if everything with the eye test, everything with the quality metrics says they're a top 25 team in the country, and it would have been a pretty unprecedented situation. Laval, I want to ask you this, because you mentioned that's not a team you want to see. And I feel like we throw that around a lot in general with the NCAA tournament. I want to flip this on you, and I'm going to hit you with a hard question. I love to do that. What's the type of team you would want to see in the NCAA tournament? Like, is there, you don't have to name a name, but a style of play.
Once you get there, everyone's good. But the reason I say that about a team like West Virginia, when you're running into it, if you can operate with some level of comfort now, like especially on the offensive end, you're used to running your stuff, whatever that might be, and executing your offense. And so the teams that don't allow you to kind of play the way that you're used to playing, and those are the teams there, and they're physical, not knowing how the game may be called. You have officials from different leagues and all around the country now that you're into it. So I don't know that everyone's good. You respect everybody, but they've gotten in, they're good. Look at St. Peter's last year. Look at Loyola's runs. So you respect them all. But there's good enough matchups. Like to John's point, like they just keep coming and wear you out by the end of it. So if you have a really good backcourt and you got really good guards and you got multiple ball handlers that can handle it, you're probably, you're not as West Virginia doesn't look as bad. They still like, okay, we got to deal with this, but you have, different ways to kind of, handle it. So that's the reason I say that about them, because I think they're good metrically because they can blow you out. So now the metrics look good in terms of the net and everything. When they win, they can beat you really bad. Wisconsin can't do that. Pitt doesn't do that. West Virginia can beat you by 25, 30 because of how they play.
Hey guys, just a reminder, our sponsor for today's episode is Run Your Pool. They are hosting the Field of 68 Bracket Challenge. This year, they are giving away $1,500 in free prizes. It's all an incentive for you to get on there and find out just how good their platform is. I've been using them for my bracket pools for years. I've used them for Super Bowl squares. I use them for everything that I need to use them for. The biggest survivor pool that I'm in for both NFL and NCAA tournament is by Run Your Pool. So go check them out. The link's below. Tap in.
For sure. That makes
I would
sense.
love to see Pitt on the first weekend. If we're talking teams we'd love to see. You know what I mean? Like first weekend.
Different game though, right, John? Like it's gonna
Yeah.
be physical and tough, but you can execute, you can run, it's a make or miss
And
type of thing.
That second weekend or that first weekend, the second game, I always say this was the toughest game every year. It was a team like West Virginia. It was a team like that kind of faltered, but kind of picked it up late and is a tough team to play. Maybe didn't have the best expectations because we were a number 1 seed. It was an 8 or 9 seed, but that 8 or 9 seed is literally were the 2 toughest games we had to play, barring, the elite. Obviously, when you get to the Elite 8, it's going to be a tough game. But I could think of that second game on the first weekend against a team like West Virginia was the toughest game for a top seeded team.
And think about if you're in that 1 day prep, Greg.
Yeah.
West Virginia is not prepping. They're going to blow up all your stuff anyway. Yep. So they're not walking through your actions, worried about your screen-to-screener sets or your stuff. They're going to pressure you out of all of it anyhow. So they're resting while you're talking about how to, where you might be preparing to actually guard their actions depending on how you play. So that 1 day prep is different for them than it is for you.
Yeah.
John's point.
No, that's a great point. John, be honest with us. You've been a part of some very high seeded teams before. Mm-hmm. When you're staring a 16 seed in the eye and you're staring an 8 or a 9 2 days later, are you just full prepping for the 8-9?
100%. Specifically, I remember the first year we were number 1 seed. We had the Washington Huskies, Isaiah Thomas, pro, Terrence Ross, pro. They had a couple shooters. They had a big down there from London. I forget his name. I mean, we only won by like 3 points. I mean, this was a tough game. And then the next year, I don't know if you guys remember that. Ohio, was it Vermont, the Catamounts, or we had Creighton? I think we had Creighton back with Dirk McDermott and Grant and all those guys. So like, those are 2 teams. If you guys probably remember those teams, right? Mm-hmm. So those were tough teams. And so I think West Virginia is a classic second weekend, could be the number 1 if you don't come ready. And we definitely prepared ourselves for those games. Those games were the most, I would say the pressure was on us the most, right? Like we had to get ready for those games because being a number 1 seed, you don't want to go home first weekend, man. That looks bad on the record, man. So you had to get ready.
Laval, this also reminds me of a moment in your Michigan tenure. And obviously I'm a Michigan fan, so of course I would pick this out. But I remember a lot of talk about what a scary matchup VCU would have been for Michigan in the second round, right? And obviously you guys weren't a 1 seed. You didn't have a 16. You had to prep for that first game too. But man,
we snuck out the South Dakota State game. They had Nate Walters, who was a really good player.
Yeah,
he was in my draft. He got drafted with me, man. He got the best float I ever seen to this day.
He was, and he gave Trey Burke everything he can handle. But again, that second day we're going to play VCU, and it's like, all right, the 2-guard offense is kind of null and void because we're not going to run it tonight, fellas. We got to break the press and score off the press break.
Yeah.
Thank God Tim Hardaway Jr. had developed his ball handling skills by then.
I'm going to say, I'm assuming I can give you full credit for the move to Tim Hardaway Jr. on the ball that game. Worked like just a gem, Laval. Great job. Great job.